Hey there! Welcome to Dex vs. Dice. My name is Morgan. This is the first video that I am doing on this channel, and I thought I would set the tone right for the channel from the very beginning and start with the biggest Kickstarter in CMON's history. This is their 50th campaign. This is Marvel Zombies, a Zombicide game. So I thought I would start here. Now I'm going to record some other videos and, get more in depth about, why I created the channel and all of that fun stuff. But for the purposes of this video, I promised myself that I would just launch. And so there's nothing real fancy going on here. It is just a quick screen share, and we're going to talk about this campaign, and then we're going to get up on YouTube, and then that's going to start the ball. And so, if you're watching this video, thank you so much for watching my very first video. Maybe we can circle back to this in several years and just laugh at the humble beginnings of this channel and where it's going to take us. All right. So, I am a Kickstarter backer. I back numerous projects throughout the year, perhaps not the level of some others, but more than the average. And perhaps in a different video, I'll get into some of those here. And for this campaign here, you can see that I'm a backer in this project, and I'm sure that this won't even be the final total. But what I want to talk about on this project here is that this campaign has been live now for just shy of 12 hours. And they are at 3.3, almost $3.34 million. And they cracked 3 million of that right around the 4-hour mark. And so that is just really almost unprecedented. There's been other campaigns from other publishers that have exceeded this across the life of the campaign. But this is off to a very, very strong start. Will it become the most successful Kickstarter ever? I don't think so, but I feel it's going to do very, very well. I was talking to somebody in the industry a few months back for a different Kickstarter project. He was helping the team along, and we got into a side private conversation while waiting for players to join us on a tabletop simulator demo of a game. And no one showed up. It was just him and I. So we got into a lengthy discussion about the industry. It was really insightful. Among the many things we talked about where a campaign can go. And then we'll get into in depth into this particular campaign in a second. That oftentimes 33% or so of the revenue a campaign's going to generate is on the first day. And so if you ever see a campaign that launches on the first day and then they shut it down in short order after that, it's because they really didn't make the money they needed to make on the day one to justify the campaign going. Because more often than not, for a lot of these campaigns, especially if the campaigns have miniatures, the upfront cost to even get the game off the ground is substantial, right? And so they need a certain level of funding just to pay for all the molds and get everything just up to speed, right? So if they don't get to where they want to get within the first couple of days, they're usually just toast, right? And so you get about 33% of your money on day one. The other 33% is in the windows before the ending of the campaign and after the beginning. And this day one is a fluctuating number. It's not a hard science, right? But just the first day or two, right? Maybe say 36 hours. Like that's going to set the tone, right? And then like the other 33% is kind of that chunk in the middle. And then the final 33% is like the last few days. Like all of a sudden, FOMO kicks in. People who are like waiting it out to see how the whole thing planned out, finally they make a decision. So at that rate, this thing could crack 10 million. That's possible. And that would put this thing within shooting distance of the number one backed board game project ever, which I believe is Frosthaven. And I don't have the facts right in front of me, but Frosthaven did like 11 or 12 million or something like that. I don't think it did 13, but it might have, right? Let's just say for argument's sake it did around 12. So the question is, can this do around 12? And I'm not so sure because it's a shorter campaign. It's only like a 16-day campaign. It now says 15 days to go. And I don't think it'll get there, but I wouldn't be surprised because this is their 50th project, and they swear it's their biggest one. And so maybe they'll pull out all the stops, and they'll give people even more and more reason. So, Marvel Zombies. I have not read the comics, but I am familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything they're doing on Disney Plus, and the stuff that they've released on other platforms like Netflix with Daredevil and things like that. So I'm a fan of the cinematic universe and what they're doing in live action. But I am not a comic book reader by chance, so sometimes when something like this comes across, like I have to go look it up on Wikipedia and go follow some other YouTube channels where people have a real foundation and knowledge on this subject matter. But this goes back to the comic books, and there is a precedent for it. And then recently, in some of the Disney Plus adaptations, there was the What If series, and the What If series had zombies in it. They had Captain America as a zombie. I don't remember who else was a zombie in that show, but it was a whole lot of them, right? So you could see where Marvel wants to go with this, and I do believe Marvel's even producing a Marvel Zombies show for Disney Plus. So by the time this game actually fulfills, you could be looking at just a wonderful 1-2 tie-in. So let's talk about fulfillment on this thing. They probably are going to want to get this Wave 1 shipping in people's hands prior to Christmas. I don't know how close that'll tie into a Marvel Zombies animated show, but they want to get this into retailers' hands before Christmas. So you have two options here. You could do a 1-wave shipping or 2-wave shipping. And what 1-wave shipping is going to be is it's going to be the first box here on the left-hand side, and then the 2-wave shipping will allow you to get the X-Men expansion, X-Men Resistance, and the Galactus. I'd not even want to call it a miniature, right? Because this thing is like 2 feet tall almost, right? It's huge. But let's scroll down into it. 7 minutes. I haven't even got into the juicy stuff, right? So there are just a handful of different pledge levels here so far. I don't know what else they'll add. I have not backed a lot of CMON games specifically on Kickstarter. I own several CMON games, but I bought them aftermarket, either retail or I bought them, from a third-party seller of some sort, even perhaps eBay. But I have not backed any CMON games before. This is my very first one. And when you watch some of my other videos in the future, I'll show you I've backed many other campaigns, just never backed a CMON game. And I think it's just a matter of just timing and weird coincidence. I was either taking a break from funding stuff, or I just was in between projects and something just never truly caught my eye where I was going to fund it, right? So this first pledge here is 130, and it includes all kinds of different wonderful things that you could play in the zombie hero mode, where basically you're going to be feeding off of bystanders and stuff like that. So this is a controversial thing here because this involves you playing as superheroes and feeding off of, essentially other humans, right? And that's never been done in a Marvel, in a Zombicide game before, ever. So some people don't feel great about that. However, when you get to the Resistance pledge here, there is a hero mode. And what the hero mode is going to allow you to do is it's going to unlock not only X-Men characters, but also a whole new map of the mansion, the Xavier's mansion. I forget what the school for the gifted or something like that, right? It's going to unlock that, and I believe between these two boxes now, all of a sudden you'll have a lot more options. And then there is this absolutely insane pledge here for this Galactus thing, which I believe they say is 32 centimeters tall or something like that. It is massive. You can go over to Quackalope's channel. He's had one painted professionally. It looks amazing. It's a monstrosity, but I need it, right? I don't know why I need it. I need it, right? So there are going to be people that are buying into this thing just to get their hands on this model and paint it. Like, I can imagine there are going to be people that have little interest in the game. They're probably going to buy at this pledge level because you can't just buy expansions and add-ons and not buy the base game and stuff like that. Like CMON doesn't allow that, or so I've been told. Like CMON's like you have to buy a game in order to even get in the add-ons. But there's going to be people who are going to get this particular add-on and then sell off the rest of it. Like, or they're going to get all the zombie miniatures, which are, I'm not aware of a whole line of Marvel zombie miniatures anywhere. Maybe they've done them before and I just not hip to it. So there could be people who are going to be buying this just for the miniatures and probably not even playing the game. That's going to happen. But for board gamers like myself, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I have not played a lot of Zombicide. I've played a little bit of it. I enjoy it. I actually own a copy. It's still in shrink on my shelf of opportunity behind me. I've played other people's copies. And it's not for everybody, because not everybody likes a dungeon crawler and things like that. But for the people who enjoy the system, they should feel right at home here. There will be some changes. Some of the other more experienced channels, like Alex Radcliffe at Board Game Co. And of course Jesse over at Quackalope. Those guys know Zombicide at a much higher level than I do, and so they're going to be able to know all the little nuances of the difference in campaign modes, which I don't know if this even has a campaign mode. It's been announced yet. I don't think so. Or how your characters level up and stuff like that. Lots of wonderful miniatures, though, and some of the people are complaining about the price of this and how inflation and with global logistics and all that fun stuff, how these prices have gone up. But one of the things to consider is that these miniatures are actually, I don't know the exact dimensions and it's not on this page, but these miniatures are actually bigger than previous CMON miniatures in games like this, particularly the CMON games. These are noticeably bigger miniatures, and they've upped their game. If you look at the bases that are on these different miniatures, I mean, this is not your standard fare, figure on a flat base. Like, this is highly detailed, and these are just truly amazing miniatures. And so, every character is going to have its own unique player power. It's going to be interesting to see how those tie in, because in previous Zombicide games, you'd go hunting around for weapons, and you'll go acquire them by searching for stuff. And in here, you basically you're going to get these things by feeding, or if you're playing in the hero mode, you have to basically save the bystanders, and that's how you basically acquire certain skills and things that you can then use like as a power up, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, right? So again, you'll be eating some bystanders here, and it's fascinating that they're tying in the different supporting characters from the Marvel's universe here as quote unquote bystanders, but it might be just a little weird where you might have a bystander that's going to be on your player board. Where's this player board at? So you have your player board right here, and on the left hand side is a bystander. But sometimes in the Marvel universe, that bystander that might be on your board, in normal situations, you wouldn't even be working together, right? you wouldn't be friends. But so it'll be interesting to see how that's going to play out. But it's a wonderful selection here of new miniatures that are coming as bystanders. The hunger is basically the antagonist of these Marvel zombies. They're compelled to the hunger, and so that's what you're really dealing with here, is their insatiable need for hunger. Lots of custom stuff. I'm sure they're going to be doing like wonderful stretch goals throughout all of this. You're going to have to deal with some shield troopers as they come at you. So you got some guards, you got some specialists, you get some superheroes that are going to be coming at you. And so these are the non-zombified versions of superheroes that have not got infected that you will need to deal with. And so it's going to be fascinating to watch, say, a zombified Hulk deal with, you know, a Black Panther or Thor. Like, you know, the relationship that Hulk and Thor have, particularly in the movies, which is my main frame of reference. To watch a zombified Hulk and a Thor go at each other, you know, you'd have to imagine it, you know, theater of the mind a little bit, but it could be fun. So it looks like they're going with some double-sided boards that are a little bit modular, and so you'll be able to build out some maps. I don't know exactly what the rules and conditions are for doing that, but apparently you can play at a lot of the famous locales that you're used to in the cinematic and Marvel universe, whether it's the Sanctum Sanctorum or the Daily Bugle or even a shawarma place, it says, which is pretty fun. And then apparently there are cards and actually characters that are going to be added to the base game that will have hero mode as an option, but you only can use the hero mode option of these characters in the base game if you own the X-Men Resistance. So you're going to see a lot of people just going in at the mid-tier level and skipping over the base pledge entirely. So if we look at this pledge here for 240, I would suspect, and we'll go and look at it in a second, that an overwhelming majority of people are going to be at this pledge or higher, right? Because you can't even unlock hero mode, which is unfortunate in this base game. I don't know how I feel about that. I think like they should probably have hero mode straight up unlocked in the base game. That's probably going to cause the most waves. But that being said, you are getting a good amount of content when you upgrade to this Resistance pledge, and then having, you know, everything that comes along with that. And what's interesting is Galactus itself even has gameplay attached right to it, which is just nuts, because look at how big Galactus is in comparison to the size of the board and the other miniatures that are around, and yet it has a legitimate like gameplay element to it. Will it be fun? Will people enjoy it? Or will they just be excited because they got this thing that's like 2 feet tall on their table, right? I don't even know where I'm going to store it, right? If I'm looking in my game room here, like I have Kallax shelves to the ceiling, and they're on 2 of the walls here, and the other walls would not be a place where I could place this thing. So I almost feel like this thing is either going to have to go in a different part of the house. My wife's not going to like that. Or it's going to sit on my gaming table a lot. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I still need it. All right. So let's scroll back down to the hero mode here. So the hero mode, again, if you have X-Men Resistance, then you're going to unlock hero mode for the characters that are in the base games, that are with the base game. So what's interesting about the Resistance mode, or the X-Men Resistance and its hero mode, is that you're going to have some living characters here, and you're primarily playing on the X-Men map, although I will be you should be able to play in the base game hero mode without having to be in the X-Men map. I think that'll be a thing. If I'm wrong, somebody in the comments correct me, but I believe you'll be able to. So they've already announced several wonderful characters. You got Colossus, Rogue, Wolverine, Mystique, Storm, Magneto. In fact, in the comments below, leave a comment if you haven't heard or don't know if your character is going to be released yet, and you want it to be released. Like, what's your favorite character they haven't announced yet? Put it in the comments below, and we'll discuss it. Like I heard somebody talking about on BGG about like, where is Nightcrawler? I'm like, excellent idea. Where is Nightcrawler? Right? Maybe they'll announce him. Who knows? So you got some bystanders here. So again, you got a Senator Kelly here. If you're playing as Wolverine, right? Because Wolverine's a character right here, right? If you're playing as Wolverine and Senator Kelly is a bystander, and he's like on your player board, like, Senator Kelly's not your friend. And so, but, you know, the enemy of the friend of my enemy. What is that expression? The the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think that's what it is. So perhaps these zombies are just it's such a nuisance that the Senator Kellys of the world have to partner with X-Men, even though they wouldn't normally, in order to defeat these hordes of zombies and these other superhero or mutant zombies. They're like, you gotta work with what you got, right? You got Trask here. Is it Bolivar? Is that how you say his name? Bolivar. So he created the Sentinels, I believe, right? So he's not exactly a friend of the X-Men. So again, a lot of the same components, a lot of the same player boards, dice, trackers, stuff like that. Lots of different spawn cards. So Multiple Man, I've heard of him. Apparently, like, because he can duplicate so easily, it makes him stronger than he really is, because without that ability, he's not very strong at all. But when he duplicates like that, he becomes somebody you have to deal with, at least. I've never heard of this living tank concept here. So if you're familiar with the Marvel Zombies universe, or just Marvel in general, and you're like, no, there's a mutant that does this or something, let me know. Like, what do you know about these Reavers that are quote unquote literal tanks, right? Then you have these runners here. Look like they're about to catch a football or something. It's funny. And then they have zombie heroes, right? And so this is really wonderful. So Cyclops took his own head off? Like, what is happening with this Cyclops mini? That's amazing. Alright, a Dark Phoenix. And I'm wondering how the game would balance, like, these characters have wildly different power levels, right? So in the cinematic universe, they always find an excuse for the overly powerful hero to be gone, right? Like, the heroes are having this battle for their lives, but Thor doesn't show up to the very end because his power level's through the roof. Or Captain Marvel, her power level's so ridiculous, like, she doesn't show up until the end of Endgame, right? Spoiler alert, right? If you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're watching this video. So, like, how do you balance out, like, a Dark Phoenix zombie against, I don't know, a Multiple Man? like, I don't know. I don't understand. So, we'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. And so again, this box now has a zombie mode compatibility. And so they take different characters, and you'll be able to play those in the base game in zombie mode, right? And so, cool stuff. The next thing I want to know is, and I'm sure somebody's going to do it, is either an official, what's the word I want to use? An official, like, variant, or like a player-made game mode where they take Zombicide and they put Marvel characters in it. Or they take some of their existing Zombicide stuff and they put it in the Marvel game as kind of they're clearly not a superhero, but somebody who can help, right? Can you take a character from Black Plague or Green Horde or any of the other zombie games and find a way to officially or unofficially house rule it or whatever to get these to play together? I'm sure someone's going to try it. I'd be interesting to see, how they find a way to make that work, right? So here's the whole Galactus, right? And as its own thing, it comes with all kinds of character pieces and cards, and it has a detachable head and arm that goes zombified mode, which is an interesting decision. It allows for some more flexibility for that. Again, if you haven't seen on Quackalope's channel the painted version of this, it's the first one I've seen that's been painted. Go check it out because it's pretty cool, right? It gives a lot of us that aren't skilled painters like that, like some ideas about where to go. So 62 centimeters tall. How much is that in inches? I don't know. I wish, and my keyboard here is messing up. So inches to centimeters. And then we'll just put in 62 centimeters. So 24 inches is 2 feet tall, like I was saying. Over 2 feet. That is just obscene. And it's 1.5 feet wide, right? Crazy. So basically he's a big baddie, and you'll have to work together to take him down, and it probably will not be easy. And I'm guessing if the game's going to do it any justice, is that you'll lose more often than you win. It shouldn't be easy. I mean, why build a mini that big and make it just like the easiest thing to take down, right? You should feel a sense of triumph for taking this thing down. Like, it should come down to the razor's edge, right? And that would make it so much more rewarding, in my opinion. And my feelings with co-op games is, in general, I don't want to have a high win ratio co-op games. Now, I don't necessarily always want it to be brutal, but I don't want it to be just like a foregone conclusion. And so I love co-op games that have abilities to amp up the difficulty in a game. Like, I believe it's called Rise of Atlantis. It's not facing me right now. It's behind some other games. That's a co-op game where you basically, Atlantis is sinking into the ocean, and you have to try to work together to get out, right? But in that game, there's the standard difficulty, but then if you just add a handful of these, basically like these, I'm going to call them chaos cards. I can't remember what they're called, but when you introduce these cards into the game, these nasty events, it ramps up the difficulty considerably. And so the game just says, hey, add more to the game, add more to the deck, and then boom. My Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game, you just add some more difficult cards to the game, and all of a sudden it gets wildly more difficult, right? So hopefully something like that, so that way you can appease all types of players and what they're looking to get out of the game, right? But personally, on my end, I want to see a win rate of no more than 50%. Like, if it's 40, 45%, even 50 is fine. But like, I don't want it to be like, oh, we're going to win 75% of the time. Like, it's not as exciting. So lots of different things going on here, and perhaps I'll dive deeper into this in a different video and just see, like, okay, this is the more nuanced details of what's going on with Galactus, right? But this is enough for now. So you got Silver Surfer, and turns out there's a zombie Silver Surfer mode that they've unlocked. That's pretty cool. So looking forward to that. And then let's see if we scroll down here to. I like how they're doing the stretch goals with this. They're doing it as if it's headlines from the Daily Bugle, which is really, really cool. So stretch goals, they knocked them out the park first day. Lots of them. So Iron Man's been added, and that is a superhero piece. And then they've added Wasp, and then they've added Sabretooth. So a lot of people have been saying, hey, listen, Sabretooth should play very differently than Wolverine. And if it's kind of the same things that Wolverine can do, then they've missed the mark on that. And I'm not enough of a Sabretooth expert, but they are different, and so I would argue that there should be at least some type of distinction, but as for how much of a distinction, who knows. But the purists out there, they want a Sabretooth to not feel like a slightly watered down Wolverine, right? They don't want that. Or vice versa, depending on where you stand on Sabretooth, right? Zombie Miss Marvel, another concern people are having is they don't want to constantly see a hero version and a zombie version of every character. That's not what they're really looking to do. But we'll find out what's going to happen as we start comparing these minis that keep getting unlocked. We're hoping that we get to see more characters from the Marvel Universe as opposed to different versions of the same characters, right? Like, are we going to get a Nightcrawler as opposed to, a zombie and a non-zombie version of Rogue, right? So there's a zombie Wolverine right there, pretty awesome, and there's going to be just more stuff coming. So Luke Cage, that's supposed to be the 2 million mark. They already crossed that, but see how there's just 2 versions of Luke Cage here. So this is the concern: will we get more characters as opposed to just versions? There's 2 versions of Beast here, although that does look pretty wicked. I'm not gonna lie, that zombie Beast looks cool. I like it. And then Winter Soldier. So the question is, if a Winter Soldier at 3,500, when this thing hits 4 million, sorry, 3.5 million. I said 3,500. I don't know why they did K like this, right? Maybe to make it seem more obtainable. I don't know why this decision was made. Maybe it just fits into this graphic and it's just simplified. I don't know. But if at 4, because they seem to be doing these about 500,000 apart right now, they might tighten it up in the middle of the campaign in order to keep the excitement going, because they won't be hitting these milestones so fast. But if the next one is just Winter Soldier Zombie and they just keep repeating that, then I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit let down with that. And so they'll have to make up for it some kind of way. If they're going to say that this is their biggest Kickstarter ever and get people really excited, then hopefully they've planned it out. After 50 of these, you would think that CMON definitely knows what they're doing. So I don't want to overly criticize this point and just set my ignorance aside and just go, you know what? At 50 of them, and you're making a big splash here, show us what you got. And then that's that, right? So finally, let's talk about these pledge levels and just see how many people are supporting at what pledge levels, right? So there is no like $1 pledge. You might be able to go in and just do a manual pledge, and then once the pledge manager opens up, then you can fund the rest of it back then. But there is no default $1 pledge. It's not in there. So the first pledge is their Undead pledge, and it is just the first game and then all the stretch goals that come with that Undead box. That's the base game, is what that is. That is the zombie mode base game. And then the 240 pledge, and they have 1,266 people in just that base one, which there's over 10,000 backers of this already. There might be even 15,000. I'll go look in a second. So you could tell that most people aren't doing this one. Instead, this one here for 240 is the Marvel Zombies and the X-Men Resistance and all the stretch goals for those 2 games, right? And then that is 3,657, which tells me that between the 2 of those, right, you're looking at about just shy of 5,000. That means everybody is up here. Like over half is on this Galactus pledge. So there's going to be a lot of these Galactus statues floating around. I expect to see them on eBay for crazy inflated prices when they finally arrive. Some people are going to probably try to start a business out of just selling Galactus miniatures or statues, really. So 5,400 and change. Let's talk about this 2-wave shipping here. And so this is where things get a little scary for people. So they're not going to charge shipping until the pledge manager, because shipping has been unpredictable with the way ocean freight is right now. But this is not cheap, and I do not envy people in other parts of the world who not only have to pay just exorbitant shipping costs, they also pay, like in Europe, they have to pay VAT on top of it, like value-added tax. Right? I just feel so bad, right? Because it makes some of these games just so ridiculous in cost that it's not worth it. I'm surprised that they sell at the levels they could even sell at in these parts of the world. I don't know what those levels are, but these are not trivial expenses. So in the United States, if you go with 1 wave, that means they're going to ship the first box to you, and they say it's supposed to deliver around October, right? CMON is like many other Kickstarter publishers, known for being 4 to 6 months behind schedule, right? Now you figure after 50 of these, they would be just spot on, like they just would not miss a mark. But I just watched another video from the King of Average, and he pointed out that there are currently 6 unfulfilled unfulfilled CMON games from Kickstarter, and then this one would make 7, right? And then of those 7, this one would make 6 in a row, right? So there was one that had to go into redevelopment because the main game designer had left the company. At least the main game designer for these types of games, Eric Lang, had left. And so they basically, my understanding is that they had to rework it. But then the game after that launched and fulfilled. So they kind of skipped one. But I believe that this one, it will now mark 6 games unfulfilled. So the Undead Pledge is just the base game. And if you do the first wave, it's $35 in shipping. But apparently, any of the extra add-ons that might be tied to that box game will come like in 2023, like next summer, right? Of 2023, so like 18 months out, right? And they say June 2023. So that extra stuff that's not with just the base game will come for another like 9 months after that, right? The Resistance is both games. You get the first game up front, then you get everything else. The add-ons, the second X-Men Resistance, all that would come separately. It's a $19 difference in shipping here. This one looks like it's a $17 difference in shipping. And then the Galactus level pledge, which is right now well over half the backers, it's $88 to ship this thing. And then if you do it 2 waves, it's $107, so I believe it's a $19 difference right there. And so if you can spend $88 on shipping, and you want to play the game sooner rather than later, you probably have an extra $19. So that way you just get it while everybody else is playing it. So I think a lot of people are going to end up doing 2 wave, to be honest, because the difference there is not that much. Now, what's baffling to me is, and this is not a CMON specific criticism, but there's so many publishers out there where they're selling these games essentially at full retail, full MSRP, and you're paying like really expensive shipping to get them shipped. Meanwhile, some of your largest board game websites, particularly here in the United States, I really don't have strong frames of reference for Europe. I have ordered some stuff from Europe from before. And it seems like when I go to their websites, it seems like they got really good options sometimes for affordable shipping, but perhaps not in every country and perhaps not in every situation. That's probably a guaranteed it's not that way. But the game nerds of the world, the miniature markets of the world, the Cool Mini, not Cool Mini or not, that's these guys, Cool Stuff Inc., so many of these other retailers have like free shipping when you order $75 or more, or $100 or more, $120, $125, or even $150. And here you are in Kickstarter. And again, this is not specific to CMON. They all do it, and they all get away with it. Where you're ordering like $400 worth of game stuff, and you can't get free shipping, and you're paying full MSRP. Right? And so these Kickstarter companies, these publishers that focus on Kickstarter, on one side of the coin, some of them are barely breaking even. The Kickstarter is a way to get the company kind of off the ground. That's kind of been in the spirit of Kickstarter. And so that company sometimes makes just enough money to fulfill their orders and then produce some extra games to sell at conventions. And then, that helps get the business going so they can launch another Kickstarter, right? And that's been kind of what a lot of customers have been told, right? But some of these Kickstarter companies, publishers that focus on Kickstarter, clearly are making money hand over fist, right? Like CMON, perhaps even Awaken Realms and a few others are making substantial amount of money every time they do a Kickstarter because they're selling them at full MSRP. They control all those numbers. There's no middleman. They have logistics suppliers that help do delivery, but they're not doing a wholesale and then it goes to retail or anything like that. and they're charging you shipping on top of it. So, and as consumers, we are allowing that to happen. So that's a different discussion for a different video. Some of the publishers that are out there try to do everything they can to lower those costs and to meet the customer in the middle. But I do find it interesting, and I don't understand. Somebody who's smarter than me needs to help me figure it out. How some games that launch on Kickstarter sell for full MSRP and you have to pay for shipping. And then 18 months later, you can buy it on Game Nerds with free shipping over $75 and sometimes even cheaper than than the price you funded it. So that's the real push and pull here. Like, you know, the FOMO, and you want it now and you want to play it now and be the first kid on the block with a new toy. But at the same time, shipping. When you're spending, like, I'm on a $410 pledge. I don't want to pretend I'm too salty about it, but it's curious, and I would love to try to sort it out. Now, it's possible, again, pardon my ignorance, is that some of the shipping to some of these countries is so expensive that that's part of the give and take, is that if you were to make shipping super, super favorable for people in certain parts of the world, it might make other people around the world really upset. But it might dissuade some of those people from backing the game. But, you know, in Latin America, to ship the Galactus in 2 waves could cost up to $416. Yikes! Right? Like, I know that that's not CMON's fault or any of these. That's how expensive it is to ship to Latin America. And I'm like, they should just put this stuff on pallets and then maybe do a retailer agreement where like a wholesaler helps get it to all the retailers. I don't know. Like, it's expensive on an individual consumer. All right, so that's way longer than I wanted this video to be. It's my first stab at this out the gate. I want to thank you for watching the video and checking out my channel for the very first time. I'm hoping in the future that I get way better at these with a lot more brevity and a lot more fun content and related to these. And we'll talk about the different other projects that are going on Kickstarter and GameFound, what I'm backing, what I'm not backing, what I got in the pipeline that should be coming soon, all that kind of stuff. We'll do some unboxing videos, all that kind of fun stuff. And also, I'd love to talk about videos regarding to, like, what happens when you miss a Kickstarter. Like, what are your options that are out there, right? Because you may not know all of your options, and I believe that there are several different options to look into when all hope might be lost that you can't get a game. You might be, in some situations, it might be very easy for you to actually get the game. In other situations, you might have to do a little digging and pay a little bit of a premium. So we'll get into that in another video. But guys, thank you so much. Again, this is Morgan. The channel's called Decks versus Dice. And the reason the channel's called that is because there is this ongoing back and forth discussion with the people I play games with about, you know, luck factors in games, and, you know, do they prefer a deck of cards versus chucking dice, right? And usually when you hear the word dice in certain circles, like, that is like almost a curse word for them. It's like foul language, right? And they would much prefer to manage a deck of cards, right? But I'm of the camp that they are both enjoyable components to a game as long as it's done right, right? So we'll get into those discussions at another time. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Talk to you soon.